Hi Countryside, it's Joe Smith, your General Manager, and I'm here today with Mike McDonald, our Chair of the Countryside 2.0 Renovation Committee. And it's been a while since we've given an update directly from the committee in video format. And there's a lot that's occurred the last 30 days or so behind the scenes. Mike, you've given some updates to the President's Council, to the board, obviously. But I think it's a good time to update the community kind of where we're at in the process and what the committee's been hard at work at.
Sure.
And kind of where our target dates are with getting shovels in the ground and getting this thing off and moving. You can all see we've got the construction fence up, so we're making headway there.
Yeah.
But Mike, let's start with kind of the final bids that came in.
Sure.
And what the committee's been working through to get us on track here.
Okay, our CM Heatherwood took subcontractor bids in late August. They did extend the bid about a week because they had some firms that were real busy in the field and they needed to get their prices together. So by late August, I think the 25th, we got numbers from Heatherwood. There were 83 subcontractors that responded in the various trade bid packages, and we've talked about it: foundations, steel, masonry, ceilings, drywall, electrical, the whole thing. So they had multiple bids in every package except two. The sprinkler system and the ceiling construction only got one bid in each. So they're actually working to try to get some more bids there. But the positive news was all the pricing within each package was close. So that means the marketplace was looking at the plans, seeing the same project. So not a lot of flaws, if any, in the design drawing. So that's key. Of course, when we did our last estimate, we said we were about 1.3 million over budget with contingencies. With the bids, we're about 1.7 million over budget with contingency dollars.
Keeping contingencies intact.
Yeah, and I'll give you those values. Okay. But so that's about a 3% deviation of what we were predicting. So, and we didn't want to cut the project before bids, because that last estimate came in real close to the end of the plans. So we said, let's just roll with it. We'll do the cutting, the evaluation of reductions once we have all the numbers, which gives us more data to work with. So in the 1.7 overage, that's our gap we're trying to close now. 600 of that is contingency money, so uncommitted dollars. But we still want to make reductions that total that amount, so we can start the project with the 600,000 in hand.
Smart.
Typically, we might use 1 or 2% of the construction costs, say maybe 200,000 to 300,000, may be used for our change orders. So our CM is holding 350 in their bucket.
And that's separate from our.
It's part of the we have an owner's contingency of 250 and the contract contingency of 350. So that's our 600,000 of uncommitted funds that we want to break ground with. So the committee sprang into action September 1st. We had our first meeting to look at those numbers, get an understanding of what the results were, who the firms were, and we initiated a weekly meeting every Friday for the month of September, which will roll into October. We've also had other meetings every week with specific subcontractors, the engineers. We're trying to gain a better understanding of where the dollars are, what the costs are, so we can make an educated assumption of where cuts can be made. So to date, with the $1.7 million gap identified, we have about 1.9 million on our menu of reductions.
Priority list.
Yes, and the committee's going to meet on the 13th when all the new pricing comes back, and we will vote on which items of the 30 that we include to bring us back to budget. So our intent is to go to see the board on their October 19th meeting, preceded by some workshops so they understand the details. But we're going to bring back a project on budget, a guaranteed maximum price amendment to the contract, and be ready to break ground soon thereafter.
And within all that, obviously protecting the priorities of the project. And one of the things I wanted to, bring up with you, and I've gone through a number of these. You've gone through probably 30 times that I have. And to me, none of this was a surprise. Like, this is part of the process.
Absolutely.
And the other things that I've been sharing with some residents who have asked is some of the overages I like to refer to as some scope creep. There were some items that weren't in the original plan that we said, well, let's price this out. It'd be nice to have.
And I'll give one example that I've given the HOA presidents and the board. We're standing to my right, everyone's left, is the area that the carts assemble when they come out of the barn. If we have a shotgun start, it's where the carts return. So none of this was in the project, but as it stands, we have almost $400,000 worth of work now that we have the bid numbers for things going on here.
Right.
Right now on the plans, removing all the pavers, replacing the underground storage piping, putting new pavers back, expanding the area because the new building addition for the multi-purpose room bumps into it a little bit. So we're going to take out the landscape circle and the landscaping beyond. So we're actually adding to this area. Moving the cart path a little bit because of all of that. So, and then there's a drainage swale where the butterfly garden is that is on the plans now, a structured retaining pond.
Right.
So all of that work combined was never in this project. It represents $375,000 worth of work.
Over and above.
Correct. So we've met with the engineers. We've downsized the building additions a little bit, and we can talk about that in some detail. As a result, we have less need for drainage. We have less need for the parking count, which is another analysis. So our goal is to pull as much of that 375 out of the work here. We know there's still going to be some drainage updates.
Right.
The butterfly garden will still be a drainage area, it just won't have walls on it and look like a swimming pool. So we're well on our way in this area to capturing a big chunk of that cost, which the engineers, their calculations, the size of the addition, the amount of impermeable surface was driving all of this. Now that we have the numbers from bidders and we look at it critically, we say, hey, how do we not disturb this area?
Right.
So now we're not going to pull up the pavers. The addition to this area will be in concrete, so it blends into the cart path instead of pavers. So again, we have alternatives that don't impact any of the priorities of the community.
Right, and they're rather large numbers.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
You know, so I think that's key. You know, when we get to this point of the project and the process, you know, everyone gets concerned.
Sure.
And I think that's a key point, you know, to get out there is that we've had some scope creep through the design phase, which is entirely normal.
Right. Sometimes the engineering calculations that take you to a place and now that we know the number, we don't want to be at that place.
Right.
So how do we pick some alternative light fixtures? How do we wire the main service a little differently? So we've had some very detailed discussions with engineers, electricians, and we set a goal for them to achieve a savings number, and they tell us how we can do it.
Yeah. So that's really what the committee's been focused on the last, 5-6 weeks here.
Yep.
And just a lot of work behind the scenes. And I know I was having a conversation a week ago with another resident, and I said, let me remind you, the committee is residents.
Yes.
They are end users of the project.
Oh yeah.
They're invested in the community, and a number of the committee members were on the master plan committee, so they know the history of where we started and where we're at today. So
correct.
That coupled with the experience, the professional experience of our committee members.
Sure.
I mean, there's just for me anyways, there's a boatload of comfort knowing that we're in good hands and everything is happening as it should.
Yep. I mean, Sal Grillo is our resident electrician, retired, and John Viviani is a tech expert, worked for one of the high-tech companies, Cisco. So they've been invaluable, digging into incredible detail with the electrician and the electrical engineer.
The low voltage and the AV system and the lighting package and some of the questions they were bringing up and posing towards the designers were sensible. And really those adjustments have no effect on the member experience.
No. I mean, the lighting controllers, we have these black boxes, they cost $10,000 a piece.
Yeah.
The current design, we have a whole bunch of them in all different places. So we talked about alternative means of controlling.
Yeah.
Well, nobody is going to understand what that is.
Right.
Why were we going in one way instead of the other? Well, now we know. It's too expensive, so there's other ways to control lights, as basic as a switch, but we're going to still have a system that allows dimming, but it's just going to be a different approach and it's going to cost less money.
Right.
Less widgets, less wires, less labor, and actually simpler in the end to operate, I think, for the staff.
Which is important.
Yep. But we have done nothing in the kitchen. We have, we're not changing anything in that design. The Lakeview Lounge is still going to have a cathedral ceiling, beautiful, wood ceiling. The bars are still 30-member ovals, racetracks. Outdoor dining is protected. We still have the same number of seats. We're looking at a little bit less open-air patios out there because we have some retaining walls, some other acrobatics that were going to cost us a lot of money. So we're going to simplify the patios. So
and that is out directly behind the club in the event lawn area today. And that's a good example of something that we could easily do in future years and have zero disruption to members
Yep.
and the overall service.
Well, we were trying to achieve some of these patios where there's a sloping ground area, so it involved a lot of complicated construction. Now that we simplify them, make them smaller, and set them where the ground is already level, we don't need steps and ramps and railings and additional lighting.
Right.
So we can still have the outdoor experience. We still have outdoor covered dining here. We have the pool cafe. So again, we're not really impacting the dining. We're talking about areas with fire pits and comfortable seats. We're just going to simplify that layout so it's less expensive to build.
And which makes sense.
So build on level ground.
So providing that element.
Absolutely.
You know, just a little scaled back, if you will.
Sure. So that's the effort we've been involved in. We will have all those numbers by the 13th of October, our meeting in 2 weeks. We'll vote on each line item. We're going to prioritize them as well, because there'll be something left of the $600,000 contingency, more than likely. So we want to know what's the most important element of the reductions to put back in the project. So we want to be ready for that, so we're not too late to pull the trigger on it with our contractors. So with all things being equal, we should have a board consideration on the 19th, and get going right away. We already have permits in place for everything except the main building construction. So all the site work and the demolition is already approved by the county. So we could actually launch right away, and that was the first work, was to take down the Golf View building and dig up the old pool. And make a big mess over there. So we're actually permitted for that. We didn't really want to release it at this point until we have the whole number. And keep our construction manager, working for us. Don't get them too comfortable too soon. So,
So to recap, we're targeting the 13th of October for the committee to have final numbers based on the adjustments. We are going to have a board workshop on the 18th of October, which is a Wednesday. That'll be announced. And then the day following, Thursday the 19th, will be the board meeting where hopefully we can sign off on the final scope, sign the addendum to our contract, and get shovels in the ground shortly thereafter.
We could start the next day if ready. Do you want to talk about pickleball?
There's pickleball is going to happen. It's all going to be worked in. Some of the decisions will come out of that workshop.
Sure.
So there's a timing challenge with pickleball and what the board had approved and when that work can occur. But
so we have a place on our schedule for pickleball.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
In October, in the summer of '25, based on decisions made by the board and our work with the county. The changes to the project that we're contemplating now will reduce the need for a certain number of cars. So I'm going to have to reformulate the options for the board. Now that we know schedules the driver and pushes the project to the summer '25, we have time to reconsider alternates. What other things, when the new parking numbers are firmed up in the next, say, 2 weeks, we'll have some other alternatives.
And the important thing there is I want to remind people, the plan was always to do the pickleball courts at the very end of the project. What is pushing this back a little bit further is that potentially lines us up with the season of '24. And we don't want to be tearing everything up for pickleball our first season in the clubhouse. So naturally, just logistically, we have to delay it to that spring. And as you said, with the some of the scope adjustments, that plays directly into the parking requirements, and there's just a lot of numbers and calcs that are going on behind the scenes.
I'll give another example. We had an addition for the administrative suite. The way the architect laid it out, he had a small addition worth maybe $250,000. We asked him to relook at that design inside the building where he's renovating the old administration area and our addition for the private dining and new bathrooms. So he was able to come up with a concept that fits everything in. Everyone still gets an office, everybody gets what they need, but we don't need to build that addition now. So that's a savings in dollars, in geometry as far as space outside the club, and it reduces our car count by 3 or 4 cars. So that's the kind of savings that is not a member user priority. It's administrative function. We're getting everything into a smaller space, basically.
And my request, I need a certain number of offices.
We got
and that's what we got. We don't have to add on to the building, and the space will be much improved over what we have today. So
another good way to achieve the same means with an alternative solution.
Absolutely,
And
with less expense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm good with it too, because that walkway to the building in front there was all going to be wiped out.
It's going to change a lot in that front area there.
Yeah.
So
now we'll be able to preserve all that. And again, areas you don't work is areas of you save money.
Right.
Because you're not tearing up what you got and then having to put something back.
Exactly.
So another example of a critical look at the design solution. How do we achieve the same program elements in less space, and push comes to shove, one less storage closet, one less hallway, and the new layout is more efficient, and we still get everything we need.
Right.
So that's the kind of move that triggers another look at the parking count and what are our options with the pickleball and the parking. So once we firm up all that data, we can really take another look at the problem.
Yeah.
And we'll have more to tell the board
about
a thinking out of the box kind of thing.
Exactly.
So as requested.
It's excellent. Good. I mean, I keep saying it. I know the community has been very outspoken just in terms of the appreciation of your hard work, and everybody on this committee. We're in good hands.
Yep.
And I know I hear every single day from members who are up north.
Yeah.
Can't wait to come down and see some activity, and we're excited as well. So we're really close. We're really
as
close.
you said, this is the normal push and pull of a project.
Yeah.
We didn't want to cut the design so far back that we were under budget.
Of course not.
So I think we're in a good place. We got as much on those plans as we could. Now that we have reams of cost data from subcontractors, we're able to pick and choose things that when we see a number like the retention pond I mentioned by the butterfly garden, $65,000. We're like, how'd that happen? And the engineer says, well, this is what led me to it.
Well, I think at one point you said you got the Cadillac.
Yeah, the Cadillac.
And do we really need that for an area such as that?
Well, for an underground drainage system that nobody can appreciate unless it doesn't work.
Right.
And he assures us, the new design with less buildings, less pavers, we'll be able to still retain water over there, but not spend all that money.
Yeah.
Again, not on anyone's list of member experiences.
Right.
We weren't building a swimming hole over there. So,
exactly.
That's the nature of the reductions we're looking at. And again, we'll have that plan fully together and explain every part of it.
It's going to be great. Well,
sure thing.
Mike, thanks for the time. Thanks for the hard work, as always, the leadership with the committee.
Yep.
Countryside, hope this update's been helpful. I know you haven't heard from us in a couple weeks here, but rest assured there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and we're looking forward to having shovels in the ground real soon here. So any questions, comments, you can come to myself, come to Mike, or any one of the 2.0 committee members, and we'll get you the answer, and more updates to follow. So appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing everybody around the club real soon. Thank you.